All right, my guest today is Laura. Laura joins us from Toronto, where she holds the position of Director of Sales for a multinational cosmetics company. Her sales resume includes time for alcohol and soft drinks as well. Welcome, Laura. Thank you for joining me on the Commission Impossible podcast.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
So, do you consider yourself a salesperson?
Yes, 100%. Like all I've ever done, I feel like I sell myself every day a little bit. But my job is selling. I know it's so silly to say, but like I'm selling to customers, but then I'm also selling to my colleagues, if that makes sense. Like
Right.
so
So,
I'm selling to everybody.
so you're a director. That sounds pretty senior. Um, you're my understanding of it is you're a couple degrees of separation away from the final customer, but you're still kind of selling to them. Would that be accurate?
So the final customer of ours. Um I sell to retailers, right? So in Canada, the top retailers for beauty, the number one retailer for beauty is Shoppers Drug Mart, right? Um, the number one retailer for prestige beauty, which is the industry I'm in currently, that's Sephora. So I would sell to the head office, in a roundabout way. Like, my colleagues would probably be like, what are you selling? Like, because it's a lot of account management is really what it's called. It's sort of like within the CPG industry, is what it's known as. And it's a long term relationship, right? So, when you're selling a car, Taylor, it's kind of like a 1 day, maybe a few day situation. Maybe if you have like a long term customer, you get a few more sales. But like this is day in, day out, emails flying back and forth. So it's a long term relationship
Kind of a
that you have.
partnership, right?
It has to be a partnership. It has to be, or else you lose them right away. And they sniff it out, right? Because the same people that I talk to, they'll talk to all the competitors who are the same level as me, the same role as me. So they can smell bullshit like a mile away. These people. So
So
they're in the positions they're in for a reason.
right, I kind of wonder maybe about the push and pull between, I guess you're representing a manufacturer technically, right? A manufacturer of cosmetic products.
Yeah, I personally, like in my current role, I mean, I can say I don't mind. I work for Estee Lauder. I represent all the brands that fall into Estee Lauder. So Clinique, Estee Lauder, the brand, like MAC, Too Faced, and the things that because it's such a massive company, because those brands are so incredibly massive, I don't go down to the nitty gritty of every single brand. Like I would talk like as a total company. So like total Estee Lauder, we have a conversation with Sephora. How are we going to do business together? How are we going to grow together? It's always about growing. How are we going to grow together? Everything else, or with Shoppers Drug Mart. Um, so yeah, like we're selling a partnership at all times. And yes, we can go down to like nitty gritty brand levels and like how does a brand come to life at Sephora? Oh, we have an event or something that's coming up at Sephora. How do we negotiate that? And then it goes down to like the tactical executional level, which is not something that I participate in like anymore, like maybe at the beginning of my career, but not now. But it's more like selling that concept to them, and then it flows down.
I wonder, and so because it's like a partnership, you're kind of relying on that retailer probably for a lot of feedback too. Like what's working, what are people buying? Are you competing for shelf space in those stores and trying to
Yeah.
get them to take on more of your product?
Yeah. It's a crazy thing actually. So I used to work, so I started my career in at SC Johnson, a family company. I loved working for them, by the way. And they sell, for those that don't know, but you do know, it's Ziploc, it's Glade, it's cleaners, those kinds of
Everyone's got
things.
their stuff in their house.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So SC Johnson sells, like I really worked in like cleaners and air fresheners. Really, is the thing. I know way too much about air fresheners, but air fresheners, that's the thing I worked a lot with. And we were selling, my personal job, like at the time, was selling to like Loblaw. So if you go to a Loblaw shelf, like how it's set up, that is the air freshener space. And then you're sort of selling all the brands, Febreze, Airwick, whatever. Everyone is kind of selling to Loblaw. I deserve this much more of that space. So it becomes super competitive. And there's all kinds of different tactics you can take to like just gain, we call it share of shelf in the industry. So just one more inch of share of shelf. It's kind of nuts, but that's literally,
Right.
they look at dollars per inch on those shelves. In beauty, because you go to like a Sephora or you go to a Shoppers Drug Mart, and I've worked in both mass and in prestige. There's a fixture that's there, and it's like a vacuform fixture, and you can see it's like plastic, and so those are wildly expensive. So we essentially get given like a space, like 3 or 4 feet, or what, or really 9 feet is really the prestige amount that you get, and then they're kind of like, okay, go to like we like yesterday we kind of like we present to them and they have to say yes to things, of course. Everyone has to agree and hold hands, but it really is kind of our space to like make the brand come to life within. So it's a lot more difficult for um like those conversations because we spend a lot of money making these fixtures, and if someone came in they would have to spend money kind of taking up that space. But when you're in like mass, when you're in air fresheners, oh, like every 6 months you're gaining, losing space and whatever it
Right.
is. So the conversations are always about how to get just that little bit more of an edge on the customer why, and doing it in a way that like Loblaw or Walmart, like, benefits them. Like at the end of the day, we don't go, oh, look, we're so amazing and we're so great, and that's the reason why you should have more Glade or whatever, or more Clinique. It's, hey, this is how it benefits you, right? And that's the selling aspect of it. It's like, hey,
Are you kind of siloed from the marketing part, or are you pretty connected with that end of it?
I yeah, pretty connected. In beauty is very much a marketing driven industry.
Totally, yeah.
I'm sure everyone can agree with that. So marketing, it works pretty much hand in hand. And because I kind of oversee all the brands as opposed to needling down on one, I'm pretty connected on all of them because they'll kind of have little issues here and there. And then I kind of go, okay, I can connect the dots between the things I'm hearing from each individual brand. And now I need to address with Shopper Drummer or Sephora as a holistic issue going on.
Right.
And then kind of in my previous life, like when you're more of like account manager role, you're more working with the brand, and it is contentious. It does get contentious with marketing. Like that's just how sales and marketing are, but it's healthy, hopefully, at the end of the day. Um, where we would just kind of um, discuss how things will come to life in store. Really, things will come to life in store. We'll give feedback. We're sort of the voice of the retailer to marketing because they can kind of do their own thing, and we're like, okay, come back to earth. This is what we
But you
actually can do.
and you must have a
And
standard, right? You must
yeah,
have a rigid
exactly.
standard on how your products are
Exactly.
merchandised.
I like to explain it as like we are the voice of the brand to the customer, and we are the voice of the customer to the brand. It kind of makes
Right.
us seem like we're in the middle, which we are in many cases, but like we have to be that when you're in this particular role, because, or else things really just get out of hand.
Has any like direct sales or online sales disrupted that business, or do people still want to go in and shop for that stuff?
That's such a good question. Canada is pretty wild right now, if I'm being honest. Like, we're completely different than really the rest of the world, to be honest, because we have such a consolidated marketplace. I'm sure you
Yeah, it's the
noticed
Weston family.
well, I'm sure you noticed that Nordstrom disappeared last year from
Right. Yeah.
Canada. So that was a big disruption in like kind of prestige beauty for sure. Hudson Bay is, they're they have a smaller share of the market than they used to. So
It
we
feels like
are.
Sephora's exploded.
It has.
Am I imagining that?
Exactly. Yes. And Sephora is adding locations year over year, and Shoppers is as well. And they're both kind of really getting in the game. So it's a very different market than it used to be. I mean, 10 years ago, like department stores were it.
Right.
And really the department stores were like Holt Renfrew, Hudson Bay, and Nordstrom. And that's completely shifted. It's all gone to kind of Sephora and Shoppers Drug Mart, which is, by the way, not the case like anywhere else. It's certainly not the case in the U.S. The U.S. is, they got Macy's, they got Dillard's. It's
They're
different.
still on the department
Canada,
store model.
yeah, department store model, but just the fact that they have like a less consolidated market, like, and this is true across all of CPG, like all of sorry, CPG is consumer packaged goods. It's just like a way to say like, oh,
Oh,
these are the,
okay.
yeah, like it's okay. It's like vendors that like control all the stuff that you see on the shelves in stores. So in all of CPG, like Canada is known as one of the most difficult markets to navigate, to negotiate, to deal with retailers within because it's so consolidated. In the market, there's really only two companies. It's Walmart and it's Loblaw, and Loblaw owns Shoppers, right?
Mhm.
Those two companies have about 65% share, something like that, of like overall. It's probably more since I last looked at the numbers. But and then you have basically, if you're in food, like less so in like general merchant things, but if you're in food now, you have basically Sobeys that owns Freshco. They own Food Basics, I believe that's Sobeys, and then Metro, who maybe, oh sorry, maybe Metro. Anyway, you have kind of those two other companies, and that is it. And
Right.
you can't really go, hey Walmart, like I don't like the way that you're dealing with this or something like that, and I'm gonna go, I have so many other options, I'll go somewhere else. They're like, ha ha ha, no, you do not, you do
You'll
not
be
have other
back.
options. Yeah,
You're nothing
we're
without me. They're like an
exactly.
abusive partner.
I mean, it doesn't get like that because thank God Canadians are polite. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie and say that I haven't had like or heard stories. Like when I first started, I'm not gonna obviously mention names or I'm not even mention the company, but there was a particular buyer that I sort of worked in the vicinity of who like he was just known and he was this like very big guy and he was very loud and he used to like scream into the phone and he only typed in like all caps, which was a little wild. And I literally, he would be like, I don't like, and he would like bang his phone like against the thing. And he worked for like a big company and he was super effective because he was like he could, so that was like a
A
little more
bully.
old school, and that was
Yeah.
not in beauty. but
Right.
but that is, you can be kind of this way, like certainly in the past for sure, because it truly was, you truly have all the power in a sense, and many vendors in Canada, they do feel very powerless, right? um it's because like in beauty it's not like this at all, to be clear. Like everyone's super super nice and it's like not contentious at all, but like they do exist. I had one buyer, not from any of the national retailers, this was like back in the day when I had regional, and he was so bizarre and he had like, you're gonna die, he had a pinky finger that with like a nail that was longer than the rest of his nails, if
Yeah.
you know what I
Coke
mean.
nail. Yeah.
Yeah, and he used to like point at stuff with it, and I'd be sitting there and
Mm.
I'd be like trying to sell him like
Cocaine.
yeah, yeah. Like I was like, oh, like Glade air fresheners, and he's like, and what's this right here? And he was like pointing with this like Coke finger.
And
Anyway,
this is a buyer for a retailer. Like, does is
a,
it?
a
it
retailer that I'm not going to say which one, and it was a
that's
big
fine.
one. Yeah,
But does it get greasy? Like, do those guys? Are they expected to be kind of wined and dined and have their palms
like
greased or anything
not
like that? Or?
anymore. It like back in the day that was part
Mhm.
of the deal. Back in the day that was part of
Yeah.
the deal. But they have put a lot of policies in place and competition law. Like they do their best to make sure. And I know that like certainly Loblaw is very careful about that. Very very careful
Yeah.
about like. But this is, we're talking like 20 years ago. It was a much different landscape. But anyway,
I
sorry,
wonder
I've gotten
too.
off the
Like,
point. But yes, Canada is a super interesting, super super difficult place. They're some of the top negotiators are in Canada. Costco, Walmart, Loblaw. Those are the three. They have a lot of power and they're very, very tough. Known
mhm.
globally to be very, very tough.
Right.
So
That's where they're the big dogs, I guess. Right. I kind of wonder,
yeah,
like, you know, things are different now, but maybe in those days, 20 years ago, like the retailer could more push something through their retail outlet, whereas now it's maybe pulled by the market and by the marketing and even probably you've probably been disrupted by the influencer model too, right? Like my
uh,
my 13-year-old should be 14 next month. Um, she watches Get Ready With Me videos
yeah,
and TikToks, and she's obsessed with cosmetics. And like you bring up Sephora, like she'll go out and make $100
yeah,
babysitting and then just take me to the mall and just blow it in Sephora on cosmetic. And like they want to use what all their influencers are using. Like, do you get
yes,
a pull from the retailer going like, hey, our customers are asking for this thing?
yes. Things go viral. Yeah, the viral thing has like that kind of started. I'm gonna say right before COVID, I would say, like right before COVID, maybe
Mm.
like a couple years prior to that.
And then blew
And
up during COVID because everyone's at home.
I I think, yeah, it really took off. And TikTok in particular, it completely changed how we market completely and in beauty. Because it's so powerful. We had a product go viral on Clinique. It was a lipstick, black honey, and it's amazing. But it will actually launch like in the 70s or 80s. Like it's been around for 100 million years, and someone found it, and Clinique did the right thing and they boosted that content, and it just flew off the shelf and we were out of stock right away. Like
Couldn't make enough of it.
couldn't make enough of it, and it's still like the very top item. So that virality, you can't manufacture that, right? It
Mm-hmm.
has to be organic. It has to be someone caught on to something and was like, and other people did, and then the brand can come in and boost it. But like at no point, I'm sure, was Clinique like, you know what, like that lipstick that came out like 30 years ago, I'm sure they were promoting it in their own way, but you
Mm-hmm.
can't manufacture the hype of something. And
Yeah,
that
unless
hype,
unless you're just giving a lot of free shit to that influencer. Like
well, that's what
my
they
kid
do,
wants
but
to
like,
have whatever Olivia Rodrigo has, whatever
hey,
perfume she has, whatever makeup she
you
wears.
know
My kid's
what,
gonna have
that's what we all thought when this
it.
all
Yeah,
started, but it's way more complicated than that. It's much more organic. The kids can sniff out a fake so quickly,
right.
and it
Yeah, they're tuned
has to
into
be,
that.
yes, it has to be like the most authentic thing you've ever heard. And these things can happen and we'll be out of stock immediately because, I mean, we don't anticipate it. We don't manufacture it, certainly. And it can't be and trust me, the brands try. Like, we're always
Right.
trying to make something go viral, but the reality is, it's magic when it happens,
That's
and it'll
interesting that
it'll
you
save our
say.
year.
Yeah, yeah, that changes everything. Look at Stanley coffee mugs.
Oh yeah,
Are you
yeah.
familiar with that? Because
They're like the giant mugs.
yeah, the big
Yeah.
thirst quencher.
Yeah.
Some influencer, these two women with a podcast or something, it just blew up, and all of a sudden everybody had to have this mug. It's
Yeah.
like a stainless steel thermos mug or whatever.
I
And
know.
my kids have them. Everyone at
Yeah.
school has them. But it's funny. My daughter, like, you want to see the leading edge of product marketing. Like, talk to a 13-year-old girl. Like, this new mug, it's like a from like Costco or whatever. Everyone's got to have this one now. It's
Yeah.
crazy how fast that changes.
It changes, and you're right, and it happens in a flash, and it happens very quickly. And if you don't kind of get on it and boost it and get it going, then it can disappear just as quickly. That's the problem with out of stocks, right? When something goes viral that you're not
Right.
expecting. We had a mascara recently go viral and you can't
You
find
can't
it anywhere.
manufacture it fast enough, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And we would love to count on that to like make our sales a little bit better, but like
Mhm.
we have to have like a demand model and everything else. So it's completely disrupted our industry, like beauty more than anything. Like will be very interesting to see what happens with TikTok, with the US and everything.
Yeah.
But like it is a completely different industry than it was 10 years ago, because 10 years ago it was print ads, it was commercials. Like, do you see beauty commercials anymore? No, like barely
Not
any.
really. Yeah.
Maybe like
You see
fragrances at
endorsements.
Christmas. The ROI is not there anymore, not
What's
really.
funny is, like, I was I was a used car manager at a car dealership in 2007,
Yeah.
and every weekend I had to get my proofs done for my full page ad in the local newspaper, like in the Calgary Sun and the Calgary Herald. I had to have full page because if you're a car dealership, you would have your full page ad every weekend. It cost you about, well, for us it was like $2,000 every weekend, and that's where everyone took the auto section and looked at it. And I remember you had to be in the Auto Trader. Remember those old Auto Trader magazines,
Mm.
like Joe Dirt, and like we would buy our space in the Auto Trader, and then they started to throw in online ads. And we didn't even understand online ads. It was a throw in when you paid for the print. And over
Oh
like the
man.
next only 2 or 3 years, that did a complete 180 where it was like, I'm not interested in the print ad. Nobody looks at a fucking newspaper. Like, I want my online ad, then they're throwing in the print to keep those jobs alive, to keep printing the magazines or
Yeah.
whatever. Hey, I wanted to ask you. I'm going backwards a little bit,
Sure.
but you're just
Yeah.
talking about um, Well, two things. You're talking about share of shelf space and packaged goods. Like,
Yeah.
I wonder if people, maybe you can help give some insight here because this is your business. Like,
Mm,
I wonder if people realize that, like, all those different products on the shelf,
yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of different products, actually fall under the umbrella of maybe just a couple of parent companies. Is that
Oh
kind
yeah.
of the case?
I do feel like those, like, every once in a while I see it on my Reddit feed, but I do, like, I get those little, like, image infographics that are like, these are all the brands that are owned by P&G and these are all the ones
Right.
that are owned by Unilever. But it is true. Like, Estee Lauder, the company I work for, we're the number one prestige beauty company in the world, in Canada. And there's, people don't know that we have MAC and we have Too Faced and we have Joe Malone and, like, all these brands, and they all have their own identity. And it's not like, oh, like, we're Estee Laudering everything, but they all have their own teams. But it is owned by, big companies. L'Oreal, that's the number one beauty company in the world if you include, like, mass, because they have Maybelline. But yeah, they have L'Oreal and Maybelline, like the two, top mass cosmetic brands. I know, Taylor, you're not always wearing Maybelline. You like the good stuff. That's why I give you the
Yeah,
max.
I'm in the premium brands for
Yeah, you're in the
sure.
premium brands, but I mean, Maybelline and L'Oreal are in competition with each other, right? Like, L'Oreal's a little more premium price, but it is consolidated in the vendor community as well. You're right. The big boys, P&G, Unilever, SC Johnson's pretty big, but it's not even close to like a P&G. They like P&G owns, gosh, like almost the entire, like, Tide, right? Like, that's huge. And then they own Mr. Clean and Febreze and Swiffer and I think it's Crest. Like, they're all over the place. So it does get consolidated, much like the retailers. So I guess
You know,
it's
what's funny
like,
is my background is a car business, and they tried to sell cars like brands. So in the this is just a dumb story, but in the '80s, General
mm,
Motors, biggest car company in the world at the time, for a long time, they brought in a new CEO, and his name is Ron Zarella, and he was a Procter and Gamble brand manager guy,
oh
and that
yeah,
was and he ran General Motors, and that's when you saw they split off the brand where they had, the Pontiac, Oldsmobile,
yeah, yeah.
Chevrolet, and all these different brands, Cadillac, and every brand sold their little version of the exact fucking same car, right, in a different franchise
Yeah.
dealership or whatever, and it kind of ran the company into the ground. They're like recovering from that. Like,
Oh
after
really?
a while, people saw through that. I don't know. People that bought cars were just like, I mean, it worked for a while, like the brand marketing thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm a Pontiac driver, I'm an Oldsmobile driver, or I'm
Well,
more of a Chevrolet guy. And they were all buying the
yeah.
exact same car with a different grill and logo on it.
I feel like that, but, like, I would never. And I feel like it is very similar in CPG, like you're saying. Like, but branding, and I mean, this is kind of like where beer comes. Like, I was at Labatt for 2 years. So Labatt is owned by AB and Bev, so they're the biggest beer company in the world. I work for a lot of the biggest, I guess. So they own, like, Budweiser, Bud Light,
Yeah,
Stella Artois. Like, it's a massive portfolio. And marketing, like, beer is very much commoditized, right? Like, especially in Canada, because Canada, again, we're so special. We like a lager in Canada. It is
right.
by and large mostly what we buy. And let's be honest, there's not a ton of difference lager to lager, right? It's ales where you
Or
start to
you're gonna
get
upset some beer drinkers watching
Oh,
this.
okay, but it's not the range that you have in ale, right? Like, you have India Pale, you have, like, multi ale, you have an amber ale. Like, the
Yeah,
range of flavor is so much wider within an ale than it is within a lager. So when you have things like Coors Light and Buzz Light and Bush Light and Moosehead Light or whatever, there's so many. They all taste relatively. You're kind of going to get to the
yeah,
same
like
place.
piss.
Okay, all right. I'm a Bud Light drinker still, but, like, my point is that is where the marketing comes in. That it is so important in beer and in anything that's commoditized, and beer's a good example, where it says something about you. It says something about you that you're holding, exactly like you said. I am holding a Bud Light, and what does that say about me
I
holding a Bud
identify
Light?
with it,
Yeah,
and
that's
Bud
that
Light's a good case study because they
exactly.
they
Bud
blew
Light
it.
did it. It's very. When I was there, it was so smart. They did Bud Light Living, which I thought was a really good campaign, and it was like people clubbing. I was younger at the
I,
time.
I I'm
Yeah.
I'm what's up? age, but that
Okay, yeah,
famous Bud Light commercial. Like,
what about the I am Canadian? Like the I am Canadian
yeah, I
thing.
remember
People,
that.
I am holding the Molson Canadian because I am Canadian, and it's what it says about you and your values comes out stronger when things are relatively the same quality, relatively the same taste. That's when brand is even more important. And beauty's similar, actually. There is yes, there's efficacy differences for sure, but when it comes to certain items, um, like yes, a $400 face cream will work better than a $50 face cream, but there's a whole range in there. Well, yeah, I do. Like truthfully, like I actually think Clinique is probably it's better than people give it credit for. I'm on Reddit a lot. And like that's what I give Graham, and he loves it as well. And that's like if you want like that quality, then you really should go for that. Um it's I would say it's more like within that range, right? Like it's once you get into prestige stuff, like Clinique is kind of like the entry point into prestige because you can get
Mhm.
like a $50 Clinique cream, but you can also get a $400 La Mer cream, right? So I guess it's saying like, okay, this is a $50 cream and a $400 cream. Like it maybe having La Mer means something to you, and there's a little bit more to that. I don't know their formulas. It's fully possible that it is like 10 times better, but like the kind of basics of it, like you you can probably get similar benefits, maybe just not the very best influencers with that. We're really talking about beauty a lot. We could talk about sales, but like beauty I know is
This is
fascinating.
fun. Well,
Yeah.
okay, and then what about like fragrances? Because
Hmm.
you know, you said that Tom Ford is one of your brands
Yes.
under
Yeah.
your Estee Lauder umbrella. I bought my wife a bottle of this Tom Ford perfume
Which
last
one?
year for Christmas.
Do you remember the fragrance?
Lost Cherry, and it
Oh,
was
that's
five.
Graham's fragrance.
No
That's
way!
yes.
It
Your
was
my
$500
your
for this
brothers
like
wouldn't
six
smell like
ounce
your
bottle.
wife.
Oh no! Well, I
Yeah.
was just like, I was just looking at stuff, and it smelled so good. I'm like, how much is
Yeah.
this? It's $500. I'm like, fuck.
Okay, so fragrances. This is a good one because I used to work at Coty, and it was more of like the mid price ones, like your Calvin Kleins and your things. And then I only recently understood the difference between like the expensive ones. So Tom Ford, it's an oil based formula, I'm pretty sure, oil based. And then the higher end ones, like when you're spending $400 for a fragrance, there is an actual difference in the formula.
It better be
So
like whale oil or something.
not necessarily. The fact that it's oil based means that it stays on you longer. So when
Okay.
something is like alcohol based, which is that'll come in like your I'm not saying cheap, but like less expensive fragrances, you'll put something on and it doesn't last very long, right? It'll kind
Right.
of dissipate a lot quicker.
So you have to use more of it.
Um, yeah, which is not about you just reapply, it's no big deal. But
Hmm.
if you want something that is going to last a long time, that's when you're going to get into that higher rate. So that's what I was saying about efficacy. Like there is a difference between those things, but you have to figure out what matters to you and what that value is worth. Like, do you
Yeah.
care that you have to reapply a perfume halfway through the day? Yes, then you should go for the higher end stuff. No, well, if you can only afford like $100 perfume and the fragrances you're good with, then you can stick with those, right? So it's all about value for money when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I wonder in your role, how much are you involved in the merchandising at the
Okay,
retail
so in
level?
this current role, I'm not involved at all. But
Right.
the first 7 years of my career, that is all I did. Well, not
Okay.
all, but like that is a huge chunk of what I did. So we talked about like the share of shelf and everything. So
Yeah.
part of the role that I had, I was in what's called category development. So it is sales, but it's more fact based selling sales, and essentially you would work directly with your retailer, and kind of be like their like partner a little bit more. And so we had salespeople, but also there was me who would be like, "Oh yeah, I see that, and here's what I think," type thing. But if, like unbiased, like it is unbiased, but you have to present it in an unbiased way. But like, let's be honest, like I was being not paid by Loblaw, right?
Hmm.
So you look for opportunities, sure, but you do kind of give your unbiased opinion. So I would, hear about competitive launches ahead of time, and I wouldn't tell, my colleagues that they were coming, type thing. But then I would plan it. So they're called planograms. So the way things are on a shelf in a store, that is like decades of research has gone into that.
Yeah.
Like, and maybe not every store, but Loblaw, Walmart, decades of research has gone into where everything is. I used to say that my job was tricking people into buying more, because actually there's a lot of psychology that goes into how things are displayed on the shelf. What is eye level? What is below eye level? How the pricing goes. There's this ideology like good, better, best. That's what we say. So you put like your good product, which is usually private label. Private label is like No Name or President's Choice.
Store brand. Yeah.
Yeah. Store brand. Yeah. So you would do like good is that, and that would be like the lowest price point, and then better would be kind of like President's Choice would be probably better than like No Name, for instance, but you could put like your mid-range brand, and then best is like your premium right on the shelf, and that applies for everything. So the good, better, best, you do it left to right, and there's a reason you do that. There's a reason you segment soup a certain way. In fragrances, there was a lot of debate over whether we should have things by brand or we should have things by type. Like, should the aerosols all be together and then by brand, or should it just be like a big thing of Glade?
Because like in a department store, like in a department store cosmetics section.
Yes, exactly.
And you've got your Chanel counter here, and
exactly,
whatever.
And there's merits to both of those arguments, but the psychology and the research and buttload of money goes in, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend just like in Canada, goes into how these shelves are created and where product is put, essentially kind of like tricking you into buying more, putting the value pack at the bottom next to the singles. Like in beer, that I did a lot of planogramming in beer, and that was, the thing that we always talked about is you would put like a 6-pack, and then right next to it you would put a 12-pack. And not so much for the LCBO, I didn't work with them, but like Liquor Depot, which is in Alberta, I helped them planogram everything to get people to like trade up, right? You always want to trade up. And then there's also psychology when it comes to pricing and where it sits. So this is actually a great example. So if you ever go to Liquor Depot or even the LCBO, they'll have like a scotch behind glass, right?
Mm.
And that scotch is not necessarily there to sell. Like, I'm sure someone will buy it, but that scotch is there to stand as a price point comparable. So because in psychology and in every study that's ever happened, if you have 3 options, you generally choose the middle. Right. But what is the middle, right? It's almost like the Overton window in politics. Like the middle moves.
Yeah.
So you need those outliers. You need the cheap, the low value, and then you need the super expensive. And you're like, well, I'm splurging today, so I'm going to get the $20 wine, not the $7 wine.
If you put that, $200 bottle of single malt in the locked cabinet, and then right next to it, like, a $60 bottle of whiskey, all of a sudden seems like
it seems like a deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that psychology has been studied for decades, and that is all taken into consideration when that shelf is designed and where things are.
Right.
I could honestly
you also
talk
have
about
that
this
buyer
for years.
that's like, no, I'm fascinated by that stuff. And then you also have that buyer that just like cost no object. What is the best? What is the most expensive? I want the best one, because that's, well, maybe that's.
You're always going to have that person who feels that way, who can afford it, but you also have that person that wants that kind of status, right? Or that dopamine hit of like feeling like I own this thing. I'm sure in the car industry you got this all the time. There is something to owning, like there's, especially now in like celebrity culture, like I'm pretty sure like Kim Kardashian has like La Mer, friends. So I always use La Mer because it's like, to me, a wildly expensive thing that I couldn't afford. It's like $400 for like for a tub of face cream. And it's really, really good quality. But Kim Kardashian uses it, right?
So there's an exclusivity that comes with that, right? Only
there's this
upper echelon of people are going to use this product.
There's this feeling of like, well, maybe I can't afford Kim Kardashian's lifestyle, but perhaps I could afford her face cream,
Well,
right?
this is kind of the Starbucks model, right?
Mhm.
Because if you pitch the idea of Starbucks and you've never seen a Starbucks before, you'd be like, who the fuck's going to pay $7 for a coffee? But that's kind of their model. Is it's like, here's something that's like a treat for well off people that anyone can buy one, right? Maybe not every day, but like you can have this luxury product that's
Yeah.
accessible to everyone. And now there's
And that, sir, that is the power of marketing. We don't
yeah,
even know it's happening to us, but it happens all day. Like good marketing, like not stuff that we're like, okay, you're full of, this is silly. But good marketing, we don't even know it's happening to us.
right,
And
yeah,
and millennials are very savvy. We see through all the bullshit. And we're like, spend 5 seconds talking to any boomer, and you're like, how do you not see through the bullshit here?
yeah.
But we see it, and we're really tough to market to. So like marketing in the past 15, 20 years has had to up their game, and then you layer on social media. My God, like
Yeah, it's got a lot more
if
sophisticated.
someone was like, I've been a marketer for 20 years, it's like, uh-oh,
Yeah,
I hope you've evolved.
yeah,
Because
yeah. No kidding.
it's different now. Yeah.
So coming back to like the shelf space and the merchandising,
No.
anyone who lives in any town in Canada has been in a Shoppers Drug Mart. And there's a joke in my town. There's 80,000 people live here, and I don't know. I think every strip mall has a Shoppers Drug Mart. And every time there's a new strip mall built, everyone jokes like, we're like two Shoppers Drug Marts, two cannabis stores, and a liquor store is probably going in
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
But you know, if I go into Shoppers Drug Mart, um, it's probably to pick up a prescription or something I need, maybe something I'm out of, shaving cream or toothbrushes or something like that.
Mm.
So I'm in and out, and so if it's a prescription, well, I got to go to the very back corner to
Mm-hmm.
this
They do that on
prescription counter.
purpose.
Of course,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because now I have to
Mm-hmm.
walk past all the expenses.
Yes.
But the thing that always strikes me about Shoppers Drug Mart is
Mm-hmm.
you have to walk through the cosmetics section, and you have to
Mm.
look at that cosmetics lady with a lot of
Yeah.
perfume and a lot of makeup on. Is the first person, and you make eye contact with her like as soon as you walk in there, and,
Yeah.
and they always greet you, and like so. I
Yeah.
wonder, like that space there, that corner where
That corner. Yeah.
why do they have a full-time sales associate there?
Okay. Well, that's a great question. So they're called beauty advisors.
Right.
And so I guess the best way that I can describe this is if you are not, so have you ever brought Jessica to like a Home Depot, like and told her to find like a nut or something, or like
No,
to find a tool? Yeah.
absolutely not.
Maybe imagine that,
Yeah,
because
right.
I think a woman, I'm being super broad here, but certainly myself going to Home Depot, I find it wildly overwhelming, and I feel kind of stupid a little bit, like all these men know what they're doing and I don't, and I feel like there's such a learning curve for me to get comfortable at a Home Depot that I almost don't want to do it. It's like learning a new language. Like you don't want to practice that new language because you're like too embarrassed. That's me at a Home Depot. I'm like, I need Graham to tell me exactly where something is, or I'll lose myself. Beauty is this way to the uninitiated into beauty. Beauty is a super overwhelming category just in itself, because and if you're not a beauty user, you don't actually know what works, and then when you experiment, it looks terrible. So, yeah, like your first mascara, your first like eyeshadow, you're like, oh my gosh. And that's actually one amazing thing that TikTok has done, like the get ready with me videos, like you were
Yeah.
saying. They have explained, okay, this is how you apply this thing. Because we never had that. But when I was a kid, I literally had You're Gonna Die, like a book from the library that like explained how to like put my makeup on, because I was super into makeup. I'd never, not artistry, but God, just to put eyeshadow on it. And I was like, why does this always look shitty on me? And like everyone else, it looks amazing.
Mhm.
So the beauty advisor is there to help you kind of ease into it. A little bit like the Home Depot, like guys with the aprons that are everywhere. They just kind of help you. They're meant to make it less intimidating.
Okay.
Sephora is crazy intimidating. Like I do find shoppers to be less so, maybe because there's less people there usually, but Sephora has so many brands, so many like little things that you're supposed to know. And it's overwhelming. And my mom's a great example of this because I literally, like, I gave her $1,000 worth of Clinique stuff for Christmas. That's what I gave her.
Yeah.
I get a discount. Don't worry about it. So, but I labeled them. I was like, this is step 1. You do this cream. This is step 2. You do this cream during the day, not at night. And like, I had it all set up for her because she's so intimidated and overwhelmed by it all. And I think that's the average person, that like someone that isn't regularly using it or regularly watching TikTok, and they maybe want to like dip their toe, or they have like a date or like a graduation or a special event that they want to try something new and different. It's very intimidating. And if you get it wrong, like, man, you look ridiculous.
Right.
So that is why the beauty advisors are there. They'll help you navigate. Okay, so you need, oh my God, I can't even tell you all this, like the steps. There's probably 20 steps that I do just to look how I look now.
But
And
also,
I don't
but
even
also
look
that beauty
that good.
advisor, right?
Yeah. So the beauty advisor will
They're
explain those to
upselling though
you.
too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
Right.
course.
Like, you got to put this on, and then this and this and this and this, and pretty soon, maybe that uninitiated person that went in to buy 1 or 2 things, they're buying 10 things,
Absolutely.
right? So like,
And
that's a position that's gonna pay
exactly.
for itself. If it's done
And
right.
as our company, we train them.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
we help them understand how our products work together. And like, it's almost kind of nuts because especially in skincare, there are actually certain products that you should not put on together because they will like negate each other out. So it's actually wildly important that you follow the right regimen, or else you're putting thousands of dollars of stuff on your face that's like doing nothing for you.
So is that kind of like is that a pretty cherry job, that Shoppers Drug Mart beauty advisor? Like, if you're into cosmetics and stuff, would that, like?
Yeah, I think, like, I know a lot of people really enjoy it. Like they're proud of it even, I would say. It's not something that I've ever done. I don't have the skills. But you know, I'm more involved in the getting them the training that they need to. So we kind of create educational moments that we teach the beauty advisors
To sell
and then we do
your
eventing
product.
as well.
Yeah.
So like we have reps that go out and they go into a Shoppers Drug Mart and they'll be like, okay, it's a like Too Faced or something, and they'll be like, okay, like we have a new product with Too Faced, and here's this amazing lip gloss, and here's all the 16 million reasons why it's so amazing, and oh, by the way, we have a new mascara. Like, you know, we'll do that kind of thing. I'm making it seem less glamorous than it is. It's pretty cool, but yeah, it's the beauty advisors are integral to the whole piece.
Yeah. And you mentioned Sephora too, because I've been in those, they've got the big flagship stores in the malls where there's like, you walk in and there's 3 or 4 women there ready to help you or whatever. But I mean, I feel like with such an emphasis on it, like this store that sells a million different things, and like the first thing you see, like, and you have to go through there. You go through that little gauntlet. You go in and you turn left or you turn right, and you have to go.
It is that way for a reason. The other piece is that it's highly impulsive. So yeah, like,
so they're trying to catch you as soon as you go in the store, like not on your way out, on your way in.
Yes, women will tell you. Well, not just women, but anyone will tell you. Anyone that uses cosmetics regularly will tell you that you can always buy another lipstick. There's always a shade. We say that about. I used to sell nail polish, like Sally Hansen, and we said the same thing. Like, I have so much nail polish, but I would love to get a new shade. I can't wait to get a new shade. I will always spend money to get a new shade. So because there is that impulsiveness, especially with color, eyeshadows and lipsticks and anything that's kind of like flashy, not necessarily like foundation and stuff that makes you look like you're not wearing makeup, but the stuff that makes you look like you're wearing makeup, you could always get more. It's highly impulsive and it's exciting. You get a little kind of like excitement moment. We have studies that say how it's a little self-care to be shopping for something because it's indulgent, right? We don't need it to live. It's not buying milk. It's
That's why 13-year-olds love it.
Yeah. It's interesting. We did a study this week. I was attending the findings of it for Gen Alpha, which I think that's.
My kids would fall under that category.
Yeah, I think they do. And actually, it was really, really interesting because brands are not marketing to them per se, unless it's like Bubble or something that's like specifically for them. But they're seeing these influencers who are their age doing these like face products, and the appeal is less that their skin is so wrinkly, obviously not, right? They have perfect skin,
Yeah.
but it's more the ritual of self-care
Oh, my
that
kid puts on. She had to get this Korean collagen face mask. She,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
this
she
viral
doesn't,
one she had to get, and then she comes downstairs with this goo all over. Of
yeah, she doesn't need to be, she
course
doesn't need
not.
to do,
No,
she doesn't need that for her skin, but it's that
it's
that
fun.
ritual of self-care. It's
Yeah.
about it's experimenting with stuff. Many young people like Gen Alpha, they'll say, I like to put makeup on, but I don't go out the door with it on. I take it off and I go, and it's more just like
It's
experimental.
fun. Well,
And a
and
lot
the other
of
thing too
like
is like
moms
they're
will do it with kids together, and it's self-care
right.
together. Like it's, yeah, it's a part, it's being a part of something.
One thing I've observed with them, and I don't know if this applies to all kids in that generation, but um, they use social media a lot differently. They've compared to like, I'm 43. Like I remember when I first got a Facebook account, and I put my whole fucking life on there, like every vacation, everything I did, everything I pictures, and I've been spending the last 10 years deleting stuff. It's like, why did I feel the need for the whole entire world to see all this? But for this alpha generation, like I feel like they've really shrunk their circles because their big thing is Snapchat, and their big thing is the
Oh
group chat,
yeah.
and like and it's only kind of their circle. They don't um, they've been taught to sort of value their privacy more and not use their real names and watch out for predators and stuff like that. But it's funny that like you know they don't want to like I can look at a few different generations of of social media users. My parents being boomers and myself being technically a millennial and my kids and it's like it's it seems to be like I don't want to say scaling down because it's still a massive scale, but um, maybe collecting it into tighter groups. But then I mean then again there's still TikTok and people have millions of followers on there, but I don't know, different vibe.
Yeah, I don't. I only have a dog, so I don't know.
I could see him.
Yeah, but Joey keeps his circle tight, so
Yeah,
I
just a
can
few
sort of,
dogs that he's in his group chat.
yeah, just a
Yeah.
few dogs. Um, yeah, yeah. I
So
don't know.
come back to that beauty advisor. I don't know why
Mm,
I'm just stuck on this. I'm fascinated by it. But like,
mm-hmm,
so competing for shelf space, like
mm-hmm.
they have their podium that they stand behind or their lectern or whatever their desk.
Yeah.
Like, is it? Do you want to get closer to that person and be like have the products that are kind of at
Yes.
hand to
Oh
them?
my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the further you get away from that beauty advisor, maybe the less desirable that because if you have to walk all
Oh,
the way
you mean
down to
like
that,
place in the store?
yeah, physically, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. The general rule of thumb is you want to be as close as possible to the front. So you catch people's eye, it's the first thing you see. I've seen studies to the contrary of that, but you certainly don't want to be in the back, right? Like just so people can find you, essentially.
right,
It's a very impulsive, like I said, it's very impulsive, but like a lot of people are super brand loyal, especially when you get into these higher end brands. And I'll be honest, like the older generation is very loyal to their brands.
right.
Yeah. So like my mom is, she only wears Clinique is it. Like she was so thrilled when I got this job. Like that is the only that there's no other brand other than Clinique. And I think your mom's kind of similar. Like she's very loyal to like certain brands.
Yeah,
The younger generation tends not to be. They're a little more exploratory.
training stuff. Yeah,
Oh, is that Ralphie? Aw.
yeah. He's barking. He wants in here.
Yeah, he's good. But yes, the general rule of thumb is you want to be at the front. I would argue that, like, if you're the second or the third, I've seen studies that have said that that's just as good, if not better. In fact, the best space to be on a shelf was actually kind of interesting because when I was doing the shelf, like I would design how the shelf looked in cleaning. This was 10 years ago. And our competitor, I'm not going to say who, was like, we must be the very first brand on that shelf. We're the number one brand. We have to be first. And I actually knew that air fresheners led into the aisle. So like when you walk into the aisle, it's like the very first thing you see. And that first gondola, that first 4 feet of space is actually dead space. It gets the least amount of like attention. And you'll notice this when you're like humming around the grocery store, you do not look at that first gondola. You look like about 4 feet in. That's what attracts your eye because you're
You're
looking
right.
down the aisle, right? So I was like, yes, of course, no
You could
problem.
have it. Yeah. Oh
Yes,
no.
of course, yeah.
What about the
So
end caps? What about,
the
like, is
end
that valuable
caps,
space?
it is valuable space. Retailer like Loblaw, they'll reserve that for like a deal usually.
Yeah, it's something I
So
want to get
it
rid of.
exactly. So it's not necessarily like planogram space. Planogram means like it's like a schematic of like a map of how it's meant to look, and that's distributed out nationally. The end caps, they'll change them out weekly. I know Sephora has ones that are a little more permanent, but yeah, it is yes, you're right. It is super valuable space, but you don't want to only be on an end cap because that space is kind of like limited. Once it's only about 3 feet of space.
Right. And it's stuff that's not in its section in the store.
Okay, yeah.
But there's
That's
probably a
like
reason for that, right?
I mean that's more Walmart than like a Loblaw, but yeah,
Yeah.
they do have kind of like the lost and lonely section that's what I call them. Yeah, my dad has like scoped out like at the LCBO. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I always go to this section here," and it's always like the discontinued wine. It's because you
Right.
can get it at like a real. I guess you don't have the LCBO, but you get it at a deal. I'm sure they have it at Liquor Depot too, because the other big part about retail is that the product life cycle, not every product makes it. So there's two big launches every single year, sometimes four if you're a big brand. And stuff has to come in and stuff has to come out, right? And the stuff that comes out, there's different policies on what to do with that. So some brands will take back the product. Thank you very much. Estee Lauder, we sell it at a company store. Other brands will just say, just get rid of it, like put it in the garbage, don't sell anymore. Some brands will be like, nope, like you bought, we're not taking any returns. So then the store has to like has to basically sell through everything, or else they won't they won't be at a net positive. So there's like different ways to deal with that, but that turnover is always happening. So there's always something that's like about to be discontinued or is discontinued that you can always get a deal
Probably
on.
now more than ever, right?
In beauty, it's always been this way.
Right.
It's just one of my buyers who I love, she said this best. Beauty is the the innovation in beauty is the couture dress in a fashion show. Like you have the wearable line of the fashion show, but the couture dress is like the showstopper. So
Right.
that will bring people in. That is the exciting, like sexy thing, but you're going to buy like the rest of it, right? And by and large, that's what innovation is. Most innovation doesn't last more than like a year, I would say, like especially in color brands, because they're always kind of trying something new and it doesn't always work. So maybe like 2 years later, we're like, okay, we launched this thing and now it's going. So, they don't always work, but you have to keep chugging them out to keep your brand kind of top of mind and relevant and new and interesting. Some of them do work, and that's the best moment when, because I feel like being in this industry so long and launching so many products, I get so excited about everything. And
Mm.
then you get kind of disappointment when it doesn't do what you're like, this is going to be the best thing. Like, this is going to be it.
You know what I
Forget,
think?
forget making more mascaras. This is the only one anyone's ever going to
This is the
need. And
last
then,
one you'll ever buy. I,
yeah,
I think
exactly. And
that,
then
like,
it
having,
launches and you're like, oh, like not everyone's buying it. Like, whatever it is. And then it disappears in 2 years and it's very disappointing. So yeah, you have to keep doing it.
I feel like what you said, like, about being so excited about that new thing. I feel like, just in my experience in sales, like, having a, like, excitement and enthusiasm for your own product is super infectious. And like it now you're at a head office level, but like,
Yeah.
if it, from right from the top down, like that
Yeah.
enthusiasm of the product, right down
Yeah.
to the people on the front line selling it, probably
Oh yeah.
probably makes a
But
big
you know
difference.
what? You have to be careful with that. Like at
You don't
at
want to
my
get married to
level,
something, right?
yeah, like there's I said this kind of earlier, like buyers who are buying for Walmart for like these are smart people and they see a lot of new products every year because it's not just, we launch god like 40 to 50 new products for like one brand. They see every brand, every
Mm.
new product. And guess what? Every company is doing a dog and pony show and like, oh my god, it's the best, and everyone is like, it's the best. So they are very jaded and they've seen it all,
Right.
and
So overwhelmed.
they crave authenticity.
Right.
So they can sniff out bullshit so quickly. And if you genuinely don't love your product, or at least know how to sell with that sense of authenticity, you're gonna lose them.
Right.
They're gonna sniff it out. And that is the difference between a salesperson who's just starting out and more a seasoned salesperson. That authenticity, that you can either, hopefully you don't have to summon it, but you can emote, that comes with like practice and understanding. What I do, and like, oh, I'm giving away all my secrets. Hopefully my buyers are like, oh, wait a minute, she just did this to me. But what I like to do is, when there's a new launch and I'm selling it, yes, I have the product benefits and everything, marketing is put together, but I'll do my own kind of spiel that's anecdotal. I talk about my mom a lot. I talk about my friends. I actually will give products to my friends for them to try. And I'm like, I will give you all the free products you want. You
Give you
have to tell
feedback.
me what you thought of it. And you
Yeah.
have to, like, if it's bad, maybe don't tell me. But if it's good, then I need you to tell me right now. So I like to use those little anecdotes as I go, and like put a layer of Laura into the sales pitch, and that's when they perk up. That
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, that's always the thing they remember. They always remember. I've seen so many salespeople come in and do it perfectly by the book,
Mm-hmm.
and I can just see the like buyer, like,
You're
looking
telling a
on my
story, right?
computer. Yeah, like you lose them. But when and that's, doing it exactly how like corporate like wants you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'll come in with a less exciting product and wrap it in the package of like, okay, here's the product benefits, but what I really want to talk about is like this story of how I gave this to like my girlfriend, and now like it's all she wears, and to the point where like she, can't get it off, or whatever the story ends up being. I talk about my mom a lot because a
Yeah.
lot of the products that we have like cater to, some of the boomers and stuff. But that is so important,
The
especially when you
stories.
have a long-term relationship. That's why I talked about at the top. When it's transactional, it's like, okay, I meet someone, I sell, and now I'm on the next. And that's like in the store, right? That's what we're talking about.
Right.
When it's this long-term partnership, years and years and years. And I had buyers at my wedding. You were there. Like, I don't know if you remember the girl who did the splits with the drag queen. She was a buyer of mine. She was a beauty
Okay.
buyer. Yeah.
Right.
So you have long-standing relationships, and that trust has to come from that authenticity. And I mean, they can tell if I'm not super, like, they'd probably be like, well, you don't have any anecdotes on this particular one. You know what I mean? And I'll be like,
Yeah.
no, I just
That's
haven't
your
tried it.
style.
And then I'll, wear it to a meeting or something. But you really do. And I did it with beer. I did it with SC Johnson. I mean, it's hard to make like a new Ziploc to be the best thing since sliced bread, but
You tell a
when you
story about it.
add that layer in,
Yeah.
that's what they respond to. And I know Graham talked about this too. A joke goes so far, like so
Mm-hmm.
far. Because the other thing about corporate life and corporate selling is no one expects a joke, and they are the best audience you've ever had in your life.
No
So
doubt.
if you have any kind of like ability to make a joke, it's always unexpected, and it could be the worst joke of your life. I swear, I think I'm so funny and clever when I'm at work. I'm like, damn, I'm like hitting it hard today. And then I think back and I'm like, no, you just kind of said something in a quirky way. That's all you did. Like, it wasn't a good joke or anything, but it's just so unexpected, and it just brings people out. And I
Mm-hmm.
have had super tough meetings with retailers that like I would crack a joke in, and immediately you just feel like, oh, like everyone
Just
is like,
disarms them.
okay,
Yeah.
we're just a people talking about whatever. So that is like a super important part about how I sell.
That's a
To
powerful persuasion strategy too, right? Like it's kind of a pace. It's kind of, you're aligning yourself with somebody, right?
Yeah, you're
In a
aligning
way.
yourself, but at the end of the day, actually, what one of my my boss Dory from years ago, she said it the best, and she always said this. She was a great salesperson, by the way. She said, at the end of the day, you want to buy from who you like.
Mhm.
That's, I mean, yes, there's, your sales are up or down, your product good or bad. Like there's all those things. But let's pretend all of those are exactly the same for all your competitors. At the end of the day, you want to work with someone that you enjoy working with.
Mhm.
So that's where that relationship comes in. If you become more of a partner, like I had a call today, like with one of a buyer, and she was, we were chatting back and forth. We were commiserating on like our lives and different things and maybe challenges that we were having. And like that kind of relationship, that's when you get to that trust level that like you can't, no amount of like RoboCop, like sales, corporate sales thing, reading slides, PowerPoint, Excel, nothing will replace that. Because
Feature
I
benefit
know,
presentation. Yeah.
yeah, what I know at the end of the day, she's going to call me when she has an opportunity because I'm better, I'm easier to work with than perhaps
Because she likes you.
another. She likes me, right?
Yeah,
It's
that was
super
taught to
important.
me early selling cars, watching these like Joe Verdi videos. Joe Verdi was this like sales trainer, had all these videos you had to watch it, and it was like, if you get someone to like you, then you can get them to trust you, and then you can get them to buy from you. And I
Yeah.
tell new real estate agents this too, because this is kind of my strategy as well. It's like I tell real estate agents, half of your job is just getting people to like you, right? The rest you'll figure out. But yeah, people are going to deal
Yeah.
with someone who they like.
That's why I said I'm selling myself at all
Mm,
times. I feel like
yeah,
sometimes.
that's
And
that's been a real common thread with other people I've talked to doing
yeah,
this.
yeah. And not everyone has it. And that's why I know I convinced your brother to go into sales because I told him, I'm like, you're starting at a 10. Most people are starting at like a negative 10 because
Mm-hmm.
you are, you come across so authentic. He's authentic, but like he comes across authentic as well. He's already batting at 100, right? And when it comes to that, and then he is just building those learned skills on top of that, like closing is the hardest part of sales, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows that it is uncomfortable to close, but you do have to do it.
You got
But
to learn to be
you gotta
comfortable getting
learn,
uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah.
like manage objection, manage objection, manage objection.
Ask for the
So
sale.
yeah, ask for the sale,
Don't ask,
exactly.
don't
And
get.
it is super uncomfortable to do, and
That was, I
a
don't know if you
lot.
listened to the first one I did with Jerome, and he was a carny, like a pitch man
Yeah,
at traveling shows, and that was the biggest thing that they were taught is you got to ask for the order. You can
yeah,
all the work you put in there, all the presentation and
yeah.
pitching it's not worth anything if you don't ask for the
I,
order.
I said to Graham when he started, the best thing he can possibly do to hone that skill is to work a trade show,
Yeah.
because I know you talked to Graham about like stand up and that. So trade shows, I liken that to stand up because I've also taken courses in stand up with Second City, and all stand up is just like rehashing the same joke that, and it kind of worked, and then you tweak it, and then it works a little better, and you tweak it, and it works. That's freaking sales, man. And you go to a trade show, you do the same pitch over and over, you sneak a joke in there. Oh, you getting a
Mm-hmm.
laugh? Okay, that works. All right, the next time I'm going to say the exact same thing, but with that joke, but maybe I'll try it this way. That's sales.
Working out your pitch. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Totally.
trade shows, there is no better environment than to keep trying, and then you do the close, right? Most trade shows, you sell something at the end, right? So like that, if you are like new to sales, that's the number one thing you can do to like get because those are not learnable skills. It's a muscle. That is the thing you have
You
to
got to
like
train it.
keep
Yeah.
doing over and over again, just like stand up, truthfully. And if you get a laugh, whoo, and let me tell you, the easiest audience in the world is at a trade show. Man, I got great laughs at trade shows.
Yeah. It could be fun.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? There was lots more I wanted to talk to you about, but it's already been over an hour, and
I
I
know,
know it's
I'm
past your
sorry.
bedtime out in Toronto. So
Yeah.
we should do it again because that was a lot of fun, and I think you have a lot of cool stories to tell, and I'll have you back on another time because
Sure.
I feel like we could do so much more. But that was really good. I think people are going to love that, and just a really fascinating view of your industry and the whole retail game and stuff. And my kids will probably listen to this too. They'll love
Oh,
that kind of
really?
stuff. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So well, thank you for doing this with me. You've been a lot of fun, and for anyone watching or listening, you know, subscribe it and like it, and catch Laura the next time we have her on.
Thank you.